Can I tell you what I think is the biggest mistake high performers make? It isn't working too hard or having too much ambition. It's not even taking on too much responsibility. The biggest mistake is believing that performance is something you build by constantly pushing harder. Because the highest performers in the world don't just train for performance, they train for recovery. Think about an Olympic athlete for a moment. They don't spend every waking hour training. A professional singer doesn't perform every night without resting her voice. Even a Formula One car driver spends time in the pit lane. Yet somehow we've convinced ourselves that our brains, our bodies, and our nervous systems should keep going without ever slowing down. And then we're surprised when we feel exhausted. We call it burnout. Blame our schedule, we blame our jobs, we blame our age. But what if we've been asking the wrong question all along? What if the real question isn't, how can I perform better? What if it's, have I ever trained my nervous system to recover? Because here's something that completely changed the way I think about high performance. Your greatest performance advantage isn't working harder, it's recovering better. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Rita Savoya, and I'm a high performance wellness strategist, breathwork facilitator, and heart math mentor. I help high achieving women and leaders regulate their nervous system so that they can lead with greater clarity, resilience, and presence. And today I want to challenge something we've been taught our entire lives. We've been taught that resilience means pushing through, working harder, sleeping less, grinding longer, hustling, being the last one to leave the office, always saying yes, always available. But biology tells us a completely different story. Resilience isn't your ability to stay activated. Yes, resilience is your ability to return to regulation after activation. So let me say that again, because I think it's one of the most important things you'll hear today. Resilience isn't the ability to stay activated. It's your ability to return to regulation. And there is a huge difference. Imagine pulling back a slingshot. The further you pull back, the more potential energy it stores. But if you never release it, eventually something breaks. Your nervous system works the same way. Stress isn't the enemy, my friend. Stress is actually necessary. It helps us focus, solve problems, protect ourselves, rise to challenges. The problem isn't stress. The problem is remaining in a stress state long after the challenge has passed. And this is exactly where so many high performers get stuck. They're incredibly good at activating, but they've never learned how to deactivate. Think about your own day. You wake up, check your phone before your feet even hit the floor. Isn't that something? I know I'm the same way. Then what do? Emails, messages, news, coffee, meetings, deadlines, phone calls, more emails, commute, dinner, laundry, scrolling, bed. Then you wonder why your brain won't switch off and never had the opportunity to do so. Your nervous system has been running a marathon all day long. Have you ever noticed that your body is physically tired, but your mind is wide awake? That's not unusual. It's one of the most common things I hear. People tell me I'm exhausted, but I can't relax. And that's because fatigue and regulation aren't the same thing. Being tired doesn't automatically mean your nervous system feels safe to recover. You can feel completely exhausted and still physiologically activated. Think about that and how strange that is. You're desperate for rest, but your body doesn't know how to receive it. Not because it's broken, because it's being conditioned. Here's an example. Have you ever been on vacation sitting by the ocean, beautiful weather, nothing to do, and somehow your mind starts creating work? You remember emails you forgot to send. You start planning the week. You reorganize your itinerary. You feel guilty for even lying down. I know it's happened to me, that's for sure. You're surrounded by peace, yet your body can't seem to experience it. That's not a personality flaw. That's a nervous system conditioning. One of the concepts I teach my clients is something I call nervous system fitness. Most of us understand physical fitness, right? You want stronger muscles, you train them. If you want better cardiovascular health, you train it. But almost nobody talks about training the nervous system. Instead, we expect it to perform under these extraordinary pressures without ever practicing recovery. Imagine asking someone to run a marathon when they never trained before. We'd never expect that, would we? Yet every day we ask our nervous system to carry impossible loads without giving them the tools to recover. Eventually, the body will adapt, but it won't become stronger. By becoming more protective, that's what it'll do. This is where the science gets really interesting. And you know me, neuroscience geek, your nervous system is constantly asking one question: am I safe? Not am I successful or am I productive or did I finish my to-do list, right? Its only priority is survival. And here's a fascinating part, at least for me. Your nervous system doesn't just listen to what's happening around you, it listens to what's happening inside of you. Your breathing, your posture, your muscle tension, your heartbeat, all of those become pieces of information. Imagine spending the entire day breathing so quick and shallow into your upper chest, holding your breath while you're answering those emails, clenching your jaw, keeping your shoulders tight, and maybe really close to your ears. Your brain interprets all of these signals as if the body looks like this, there must be a reason. So it keeps you prepared. It's almost like your body accidentally convinces your brain that danger is present. That's why I often say your breathing is either reinforcing stress or it's reinforcing safety. Every breath is a vote, not for perfection, but for the direction your nervous system is moving towards survival or toward regulation. Now, here's where I think we get leadership completely wrong. We spend so much time teaching communication skills, conflict resolution, strategic thinking, executive presence, and I get it. Those are needed. All of those things matter. And I know because I used to train those as well. But we rarely teach leaders how to regulate their own nervous system. And that's why I'm so excited to be doing this work. And yet, people don't just listen to our leaders' words, right? They experience your leader's state. Have you ever walked into a room where someone was visibly anxious and within minutes you felt that anxious too? Or maybe you've been around someone whose calm presence immediately makes you feel grounded. That's because your nervous systems are communicating with one another. Long before we actually even speak, our physiology is already having a conversation. As a leader, a parent, a partner, a coach, people borrow your emotional state, which means your greatest leadership tool isn't your calendar, your strategy, or even your experience. Will I dare say? It's the condition of your nervous system. There, I said it. I remember working with an executive who told me, I don't understand why my team always seems so stressed. So I asked her a simple question: how often do you feel rushed? She laughed and answered me, all the time. Then I asked, when was the last time you sat through an entire meeting without thinking about the next one? Silence. She couldn't remember. She wasn't creating stress intentionally, for sure. She was transmitting it unconsciously. And that's one of the biggest shifts I hope you can take from today's video. Your nervous system isn't private, it's contagious. The way you breathe, the way you listen, the way you pause, the way you respond under pressure, all of it influences the people around you. The beautiful news is that that influence works both ways, because once you learn how to regulate yourself, you begin giving other people permission to regulate too. And that's where leadership begins. So if training your nervous system is just as important as training your mind, where do you start? I think it starts by avoiding 3 common mistakes. The first mistake is waiting until you're completely exhausted before you recover. Think about your car for a moment. You don't wait until you're stranded on the side of the highway before filling up with gas. You don't wait until your phone dies before you think about charging it. You maintain them before they fail. Yet, so many of us treat our nervous system differently. We keep pushing, we ignore the whispers, the tension in the shoulders, the shallow upper chest breathing, the restless sleep, the irritability, the brain fog, until one day our body doesn't whisper anymore. It is shouting on top of a mountain. Recovery shouldn't begin when you are burnt out. Recovery should be part of your performance. The second mistake is believing recovery has to take a long time. One of the biggest myths in wellness is that you need an hour to meditate or a week-long vacation or the perfect morning routine. Those things are absolutely beautiful and can be helpful, but your nervous system doesn't only respond to big moments, it responds to repeated moments 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 3 conscious breaths before walking into a meeting, a slow exhale before answering a difficult email. Looking away from your screen and noticing the world around you, those moments matter far more than people realize. These small, repeated, consistently intentional moments create lasting change. The third mistake is trying to recover only with your mind. We tell ourselves, I should calm down. I shouldn't feel this stress. I think I need more positivity. But your nervous system doesn't speak the language of our thoughts. It speaks the language of physiology, breathing, movement, touch, connection, rhythm. That's why trying to think yourself into relaxation often feels so frustrating and sometimes impossible. Your body needs to feel, experience safety, not just understand it intellectually. This is why I believe breath is one of the most powerful tools we have, because every breath becomes a conversation with your nervous system. Every slow exhale gently says, you can let go now. Every diaphragmatic breath reminds your body you don't have to stay on high alert. And over time, those conversations begin changing your baseline, not overnight, but consistently. I'd love to show you what I mean. Let's walk the talk here. Let's just do 1 minute together. If you're driving or doing something that requires your attention, simply listen. Otherwise, sit comfortably, both feet on the floor. Allow your shoulders to soften. Notice your jaw. Notice your hands. Without changing anything, simply notice your breathing and ask yourself, is my breathing rushing me or supporting me? Now inhale gently through your nose for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale slowly through the nose for 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A gentle inhale, 2, 3, 4, and an even slower exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice what happens when your exhale becomes a little longer. Do another round on your own. Notice your shoulders, your chest, your face. Nothing dramatic, just a little softer. One more breath together. Inhale gently for 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Beautiful. Now ask yourself one simple question. How do you feel? Compared to 60 seconds ago, maybe only one better, that's enough. Because recovery isn't one giant breakthrough. It's thousands of tiny shifts that gradually teach your nervous system this is safe. I call this Rita's reset, not because it's complicated, because it's simple and simple enough to actually use it for a presentation, before you walk through your front door at work, before an important conversation, before bed, or really anytime you notice yourself moving through the day on autopilot, because you want to pause, breathe, notice, and reset. It takes less than a minute, but it changes everything. It can change the next hour. Before we finish today, I want to leave you with something to think about. What if we've been measuring high performance the wrong way? What if true performance isn't about how much pressure you can tolerate, but about how quickly you can recover from that pressure? Think about elite athletes again. They don't become champions because they train the hardest. They become champions because they know exactly when to push and exactly when to recover. Performance and recovery aren't opposites, they're partners. You simply can't have one without the other. Imagine what would change if leaders started measuring recovery with the same importance as productivity. Imagine if teams celebrated taking a mindful pause before an important meeting. If parents understood that the greatest gift they can give their children wasn't being perfect, but being present. Imagine if success no longer required sacrificing your nervous system. I believe that is possible. But it starts with changing one belief. You don't have to earn recovery. You need recovery so you can continue showing up as the person you want to be. And that's completely a totally different mindset. Before we go, I'd like to leave you with 1 minute of truth. If you've been telling yourself that slowing down means falling behind, I want you to hear this. The strongest leaders I've ever met aren't the busiest ones in the room. They're the most present. They know when to listen. They know when to pause. They know when to breathe. They understand that calm isn't the absence of ambition. Calm is what allows ambition to become sustainable. Your family doesn't need the most productive version of you. Your team doesn't need the most exhausted version of you. The people you love don't need the version of you that can do everything. They need the version of you that is fully here, because presence is far more valuable than perfection. And presence begins with regulation. So here's my challenge for you this week. 3 times a day, pause for 60 seconds. Take 5 slow breaths, then ask yourself one question. What does my nervous system need right now? Not what else do I have to do? See what changes. You might be surprised by how much clarity arrives. When your body no longer believes it needs to stay in that survival mode, it can do so much. It can speak to you. And if you're ready to listen, everything will change. If today's video resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, which of the 3 mistakes do you recognize most in yourself? And if you know someone who is always pushing, always striving, always carrying the weight of the world, share this video with them, because sometimes the highest performers aren't missing another productivity hack. They're simply missing permission to recover. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Until next time, remember this: your nervous system is always listening. The question is, what conversation are you having with it? Take a slow breath in, drop your shoulders, soften your jaw, and give yourself permission to recover. Because your greatest performance advantage will never be how hard you can push. It will always be how well you can recover. Ciao for now.